All right. First, just a little business cleanup for those that have been following me. This is back on my son's computer that I'm recording. I know the audio was a little bit quieter. Um, I do have the recording volume set to max mic volume, so hopefully this is a little better, but I don't think it's much higher than what I had set before, so I apologize if this is a little bit on the quiet side. Any case, here we go. UK1, extremely pivotal turn, and I'm still debating in my head. So the only differences between this game and game 1 is I have one less infantry in West Russia. I built artillery instead of tanks, and he has one more sub surviving in C-Zone 7. The number of units that survive West Russia plus the number of units that survive C-Zone 7 are the two main things that affect the difference of the games. But even my artillery build was intentional for a better R3 strafe on Caucasus. So, excuse me. So that's where we land ourselves now. So the lessons learned is R3, we gotta be ready to be able to kill Archangel, leave an infantry in West Russia, and be able to strafe or kill Caucasus. Preferably kill it if we can leave one here and win Arch. So when we come to that, we're gonna definitely have to do the Arch battle first, and then the Caucasus battle. Because if we win Arch, then we can just take this. Most likely he won't have enough of a follow-up. We got to watch that too, because he will have his 5 fighters and these 4, maybe 5 units in Ukraine. So we got to have enough survivors to make that worth it. So to make that happen, because he's obviously shown that he's willing to throw his J fighters in there, we need to increase the UK presence a little bit. We need to watch out for that tank blitz with the Japan fighter. So I do think UK1, I'm going to move him up to here. So I have the option to place him in UK2 here as a block, at least to the tank. And then I think I'll have enough that I can move this AA into here, so that if he's just doing a straight Japan air rush, he'll have to think about the AA at least. But all this means that we're 2 units less here. Because we're 1 infantry less, we're also going to be 1 AA less. And although with bringing the US fighter into here, it does give it a decent, it's still favorable for me. It's kind of that 60-40, 50-50-ish range, which again, if we go in KJF at that point, for Germany, that's a battle that maybe they take. So I gotta weigh that in mind. So I'm thinking I may need to land 1 extra UK fighter there if I'm going to keep West Russia. So our 2 main lines here. I still want to play my UK1 twist with the sub build. So that's, and then sub 37, cruiser 30, and carrier over 33. So that's kind of a base. So my lines of thoughts were 1. Do we want to do a Atlantic fleet drop, or do we want to build fighter bomber for UK1? And that depends. Do we want to stack West Russia, or do we want to give it up? The only way we can stack West Russia is by flying the fighters in, which we can still do both fighters in here this turn. So it's an open door. If there's 3 subs living up here, it's harder. You're kind of, your decision's more forced, right? 2 subs, you gotta depend how risky you want to be. Because if a fighter attacks C-Zone 7, it can't land in West Russia. And that's where, again, here I am saying I need a 3rd fighter. Maybe I only need 2 fighters, and I could use one of these 2 fighters down here to go to West Russia. If I sent both, or if I only sent 1 fighter this way, but I would need that extra Russian infantry or the AA, or take a little bit of risk. So it's very, 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 very fine line of what's okay and what's not okay, and knowing what your opponent's willing to do and not willing to do. So on one side, I know Marius is willing to throw his J fighters in here. On the other side, he knows I'm willing to do a 1-2 punch there. So now, what's the thresholds that one of us backs down? It's kind of playing chicken. So my line of thought, I still prefer not to strafe. I know I'm in a minority on this, and I really probably should really fine tooth it out. But you really need a 3-round strafe to really be profitable in Ukraine, and a 3-round strafe carries a fairly high chance of taking Ukraine. So I'm still deciding on that, and I got to R2 to decide if I strafe or not. But either way, whether I strafe or I don't, I prefer to stay in West Russia, R2, and try to dead zone Caucasus. I think I still lean that way if I'm buying a fighter bomber build. If I decide to do an Atlantic Fleet drop and I need my fighters over here, well, then that changes. I mean, I could do the one fighter here and the other fighter up and take that risk of 2 UK fighters here. And I could do a fleet drop in C-Zone 7, but I don't think I'd want to do a 1 fighter landing on 8 C-Zone drop with the 5 fighters in range, especially since there's a possibility of the KJF. So I think if we were to do a Atlantic Fleet drop, we'd have to drop it in 7, which I don't know that that's necessarily profitable, and we'd have to do the carrier destroyer build, and so that doesn't necessarily speed up my landings. Last time when he just had the cruiser, or if he had 3 subs, I don't know, and I had to use my fighters here to attack, then it might make sense to, and I couldn't stack West Russia, then the fleet drop becomes more relevant again, because we can't use the fighters here, we can't stack West Russia. Well then, okay, then let's go to that option. So all said and done, I'm leaning towards the 1 fighter 1 bomber build again, which based on his J1 from last time may mean we end up going KGF. We'll see what kind of mood I'm in R2. That's what my playbook says I should do. I keep veering from my playbook. So yeah, so here we go. And doing this drop, like I said, we need a dead zone Caucasus, so I want to pull back as many India infantry as I can. So how many do I need in here? He does a 2-unit attack there, so I need to have 2 infantry here. I'm building 1, so I need to leave 1. So, and then we'll have 2 fighters and a bomber. Yeah, I want to make sure I was still remembering. We'll have 2 fighters and a bomber that can hit it with 2 infantry. So even if he had 3 live there, I'd still probably be able to clear it okay. And then, like I said, I did the crunching with me wanting to pull an AA back and an infantry this way and whatnot. I feel like it gives me a pretty good dead zone, especially if I'm not going to build a second carrier and land all 4 fighters down here. I'd still be able to strike this with 3, or I could build a second carrier and actually just, because I'm going to have 3 UK fighters here, and just put 3 fighters here. If the scenario happened last time where I know he's going in, well, then I could have a more defeatable, if you will, India fleet there. So those are going to be my tweaks. The other tweak, like I said, Arch. So right now we're planning on not attacking here, bringing these guys back R2 so that they would be able to attack Arch on R3. We'll have our artilleries, or we'll have our fighters, and then we'll just have to find the balance between hitting Caucasus and Arch at that point, if it comes to that. So yeah, so we're going to try this one more time. Maybe this is the game that convinced me that Atlantic Fleet drop is the better way to start. Maybe it's not. The other difference I'm going to do, instead of putting my bomber in India and my fighter here, the problem that left my fighter kind of stranded because I didn't do a fleet drop and not much it could do. So I'm going to put the fighter down in India instead of the bomber. That still is going to leave me, even with my other fighter coming up here, that will still leave me Well, I need to redouble check. Hold on a second. Yeah, that'll still leave me. That'll still leave me fighter, bomber, 2 subs, and a cruiser on Season 32, which is a 50-50, which is where I'm happy with it, where I'm satisfied with it at. Even with that fighter up here. And it also leaves me fighter and 2 subs down here if you are 2 subs and fighter if he was to choose to go here, so that should mean he has to at least bring his carrier in to feel comfortable there, and probably a carrier and 1 fighter, which is what I'm really trying to do, is draw one of those fighters out still. I liked having that second fighter, that second plane here to make it be more needed, but again, I don't think he would do just a carrier battleship. I think he'd at least leave 1 fighter up there if he was to do a carrier to go here. So that at least pulls 1 fighter away from being able to land in Caucasus, which every fighter is needed. Alright, here we go. Excuse me. You do this enough times, you'd think you'd know this like the back of your hand, but I have to keep double checking. Am I forgetting a battle? It always feels weird not to have to do the TJ battle. I'm so used to always, don't forget your Transjordan battle. Oh yeah, 61. See, that's why we gotta double check that. We don't want to forget 61 either. That's a pretty important battle. What else are we forgetting? I think that's it. Because we're going to bring our tank down to here to help clean up, help keep Africa under control. Da 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 da. And, oh yeah, with him going up here UK1, he could still come UK2, UK3 if the game shifts that I need to protect India and not worry about that tank blitz bit. Or maybe I let the AA just, with the tank blitz, stand its own. Good deal. It's always nice when the first round of dice takes care of the battle, so you don't have to keep sweating things out. There we go. Good deal. I wonder if he'll still go after that guy. His sub was kind of, I mean, we only made it to round 2, so, but he wasn't going to be able to get his sub back to the main group. I debate that, whether it's worth it or not. You know, previous lines, who haven't followed me long enough, previous lines, a lot of times we'd let the transport over here get killed. So now I'm letting the transport over here get killed, but saving this one because it's important for my play on how I dead zone Egypt while building the KJF up over here. The other reason with this fighter here is if it becomes a J3, because we saw that he actually had some J3 pressure going on. Again, if I put the fighter here, because I'm not building a fleet, um, you know, UK2, UK3, UK4, we can't help with the J3. If he was on a fleet, that we were dropping the fighter on a fleet here on UK1, then UK2, UK3 were good. But um, we weren't doing that. And I'm not as worried about dead zoning that battleship, although he did build that transport back last game when he took Moscow. So we do need to make sure we kill that battleship before Moscow goes, or else we know which makes sense. So we do need to make sure we take care of that. All right, and there we go. Yeah, so this bomber, by the way, also up here, he can still go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 and be part of the 1, 2. So now we've got the 4 fighters, 2 bombers, potentially 6 infantry in a tank, probably 5 infantry in a tank for the round 1 Caucasus Strait, which he would have most likely a 7-hit comeback. So it'd be nice to use that infantry. So I might use him because 7 on average would be the 6 infantry in the tank, and my air would live. But then I'm relying just on the AA and the 3 infantry versus the tank and the J Blitz. So we'll decide that come. I guess that'll be determined on UK2